Hey everyone, today I'm going to share with you a story that happened in my academy. It's actually a story about brains versus heart. Who do you think will win? Without further ado, let me just jump into the story. So this was a long time ago. I had a student who was really smart, really sharp. He was one of those students who could get straight A's if he tried. Now for him, academics were not that important. For him, it was all about the social life. The cool thing about his personality was that he had no problem talking to anyone. It didn't matter if you were a janitor or a CEO, he would be able to talk to both people and find common ground. He was also funny, so he would have no problem cracking jokes and making people laugh. He was very likable. Now, during his time at university, he became friends with another student who was the total opposite of him. He was extremely hardworking and dedicated. This guy only cared about two things: getting good grades and impressing his parents. He barely went out and he certainly wasn't interested in socializing. He spent most of his time either in the library or in his room studying. He was like the walking textbook. One day we had an exam and this bookworm got 98%, which is equivalent to an A+. My smart student got 70%, which is equivalent to a C+. So I pulled them both into my office. I wanted to talk to each of them separately because they both did pretty poorly for their abilities. Let's call the smart student brains and the bookworm heart. I started by talking to brains. I said, "Look, you didn't study for this test, did you?" And he goes, "No, Mr. Williams, I was too busy hanging out with my friends last night." And I responded, "Well, when you hang out with your friends you let me down, not only because you don't perform up to your abilities, but also because you let down your parents who must be very disappointed in your performance." He looked down in shame. He knew that I was right. Then I talked to Hart. I said, "Look, why did you get 98% on this test?" And he replied, "Mr. Williams, I studied really hard for this test." And then I asked him, "Why did you only get 70%? You should have gotten at least 90. He replied, "I don't know, Mr. Williams. I guess I just wasn't feeling it today." And I responded, "Well, when you don't put your best foot forward, you let yourself down, and more importantly, you let your parents down." He looked down in shame. He knew that I was right. After both of them left my office, I thought to myself, you know what? These two guys are complete opposites, but they have something in common. They both let their parents down. A few months later, we had another exam. This time around, brains got 65%, which is equivalent to a D, and heart got 85%, which is equivalent to a B once again. I pulled them both into my office. I started by talking to brains. I said, "Look, you didn't study for this test, did you?" And he goes, "No, Mr. Williams, I was too busy hanging out with my friends last night." And I responded, "Well, when you hang out with your friends, you let me down. You let your parents down, but most importantly, you let yourself down." He looked down in shame. He knew that I was right. Then I talked to Hart. I said, "Look, why did you get 85% on this test?" And he replied, "Mr. Williams, I wasn't feeling well, so I barely slept last night. I didn't have the energy to focus during the test." And then I asked him, "So why did you get 85%? You should have gotten at least 90, he said. "Well, even though I wasn't feeling well, I still managed to pull through and do okay." And I responded, "That's true. But when you don't put your best foot forward, you let yourself down." He looked down in shame. He knew that I was right. After both of them left my office, I felt sorry for them both. I could tell that they both really wanted to succeed, but they both had different problems. Brains lacked discipline. He was a procrastinator. He liked to live in the moment and enjoy himself now rather than worry about the future. On the other hand, Hart was too much of a perfectionist. He worried too much about failing. He was afraid of making mistakes. At this point, I decided that I needed to help these two guys out. So I invited them both to my house for dinner. I wanted to talk to them in a more relaxed setting. So I cooked them both dinner and we ate together in my backyard. Then we started talking. I started by asking Hartz, "What are your goals? Where do you see yourself 5 years from now?" And he replied, "Well, Mr. Williams, I want to get good grades so that I can get into a good university, so that I can get a good job, so that I can make lots of money and buy my parents a big house and make them proud." I said, "That's a great goal, but how is that working out for you?" And he replied, "Well, not so much, Mr. Williams." I then turned to Brains and I asked him the same question. "What are your goals? Where do you see yourself 5 years from now?" And he said, "Well, Mr. Williams, I haven't really thought about it." And then I said, "So you want to get good grades, or you want to go to a good university, or you want to get a good job, or you want to make lots of money, or you want to buy your parents a big house?" And he said, "Well, yeah, I guess I want all of that, Mr. Williams." And I responded, "Well, that's great, but you need to decide on a goal because you can't do everything." The conversation continued and I gave them both some advice. I told Brains that he needed to start thinking long-term and planning for his future. I told him that he couldn't just live in the moment and do whatever he wanted because he needed to start thinking about what he wanted to do with his life. I also told Hart that he needed to relax a bit and not worry about the small things, because sometimes his perfectionism got in the way of his progress. They both listened attentively and I could tell that they appreciated my advice. We continued talking and eating until it was time for them to go home. As they were leaving, they both thanked me for the dinner and for the advice. A few weeks later, we had another exam. This time around, brains got 80%, which is equivalent to a B. And heart got 92%, which is equivalent to an A. I was happy for both of them. Brains had improved by 15% and heart had improved by 3%. What's interesting is that they both moved closer to each other's performance levels. Brains became a bit more hardworking and heart became a bit more relaxed. They both learned from each other. This is a true story that happened in my academy a long time ago. The moral of the story is that brains and heart need each other. Brains without heart can be cold and calculating. Heart without brains can be reckless and impulsive. When they work together, they can be a powerful force. So the question I want to leave you with is this: are you more brains or heart? And which one do you think is more important? Please let me know in the comments below. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. I would love to have you back for the next video. And if you want to learn more about how to become a straight A student, check out the resources in the description below. Once again, thank you for watching and I'll see you in the next video.